Charlie Kirk's murderer was an radicalized leftist extremist. And right off the bat, before I go any further, I want to make something extremely clear. You're going to see statistics come out saying, oh, the right wing commits more extremist violence than the left wing does. This is a lie. They'll bring up an ADL statistical analysis that shows that there have been 76% of right-wing extremist violence has occurred. And then they will forget the fact that they're not including Antifa riots or BLM riots or any of the other riots across the nation spurred on by leftist beliefs that resulted in hundreds of deaths, that resulted in the deaths of innocent people. They will also conveniently forget to mention the fact that they are counting extremist violence as someone who might happen to have a white supremacist tattoo on their arm or chest and happens to kill someone in a bar brawl, but not for any actual direct political reason. These people are lying to you constantly, and they will continue to lie to you constantly. They also group a vast plethora of movements or a vast plethora of different ideologies under right wing. They even have it stated on their website called other. So there is no actual clear definition of what right-wing violence or extremism is. They just lump pretty much everything that doesn't have an explicit label of leftism onto the right wing. That's a demonic scare tactic to make the right wing seem like the extremists, when the left wing has, let's see, tried to assassinate a president, tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh, been responsible for the murders of individuals in healthcare systems, been responsible for consistent domestic terrorist acts in form of riots and looting and murdering people for TVs and shoes after the result of something like George Floyd or the Hands Up Don't Shoot protests, which were actually riots. And now the murder of Charlie Kirk, an innocent man who just wanted to have conversations with kids who were led into a hateful, demonic belief system by the Democrat left. Period. That is the truth. Absolutely. 100%. As for what was inscribed on the shell casings, which I believe would have to be ability to speak for itself, one such shell casing said, "Hey fascist, catch." The latter message, Mr. Cox said, was most clearly showed the gunman's intent. Yes. By the way, this kid was part of the Antifa online groups and furry communities online. He was a sexual deviant who thought that Charlie Kirk was a fascist for having conversations with kids. The left consistently shows and consistently proves itself to be evil by claiming that having conversations using the First Amendment right of freedom of speech to debate and express your beliefs is fascistic. They have consistently advocated for going out and either physically, violently harming someone because of a different political view, or killing them. And in case you don't know, one of the core tenets of fascism is to scare your opponents into submission. To scare your opponent into submission through violent force of nature, through violent criminal activity, through violent murder, through violence, through death, through assassinations, through political assassinations, which is exactly what just happened 2 days ago. Another featured the words Bella Ciao, which is a reference to an Italian song that is, again, in opposition to quote-unquote fascism. Once more, the left consistently calls the right fascistic for wanting to have conversations and open debates with the left. The left has consistently said that people exercising their freedom of speech to express their political opinions is fascistic, and wanting the populace to remain armed so that they can defend themselves against a tyrannical government is somehow fascistic. Look back at history and you will find that there is basically zero evidence that the modern American right wing, which is all about showing grace to your enemy and having conversations with them, is somehow anywhere near what these totalitarian, authoritarian regimes like Nazism, Mao, China, communism, or fascism are about. The left are Nazis. They want to disarm the populace and ostracize an entire group of people. That's exactly what the Nazis did. Not to mention the fact that the Nazis are called the National Socialist Party. Another factor that makes them more like Nazis than conservatives is the fact that they used diseases as a talking point, as a methodology of arming the populace against the Jewish people in the 1930s and 1940s. And what did we see for about 4 years as a result of the COVID-19 instance? Is that we had the left advocating to ostracize, kill, and arrest individuals who refused to get a vaccine that didn't even work the way that it was supposed to or reported to, and that if they didn't get it, that they should die. And that we should put them into concentration camps. Those are Nazi beliefs. Beyond that, they're communists. Communism always results in the oppression of people, disarming the populace, making sure they can't fight back against a corrupt government, and ensuring that anyone who has any freedom of expression, meaning artists, influencers, creatives, they all get killed because they're useless if they don't work in labor. Communism is about slavery. That's all it's ever been about. Socialism, Maoist China, that's all under the wing and under the umbrella of communism. And fascism, once again, using violence and using assassinations, political violence to suppress and oppress their enemies is exactly what the left is special in. Make no mistake, the left hates you. The demonic Democrat left hates you. They celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. The person who killed Charlie Kirk believed these things. And in case the evidence of him writing these things on his shell casings wasn't enough for you, here is a testimony from a friend. In a phone interview on Friday, one of Tyler Robinson's high school friends, who asked to remain anonymous, said that the suspect was pretty left on everything, and was the only member of his family that was really leftist. The rest of his family was very hard Republican, the friend said. Around sophomore year, his friend said Robinson became more extreme in his political views and would always just be ranting and arguing about them. This is something that I do not want you to see. There is a narrative online that the person who killed Charlie Kirk was a straight, white, conservative Christian male. First of all, he wasn't Christian. He came from a Mormon family. Second of all, as we can see, he wasn't exactly straight because he was a furry activist and a trans supporter. So maybe he liked women, but he also wanted women with dicks. I don't know. And he also liked animals and the idea of sleeping with animals because he liked furries and he was a supporter of furry nonsense. He also wasn't a conservative due to the fact that he was a leftist liberal who was radicalized by the left. And his friends and testimony from himself and the testimony of his casings that have the engravings on them is evidence enough of this. Was he white? Yes. Was he a male? Biologically, yes. So the only thing they have is that he was a white man. But they don't have the evidence to say that he was a conservative, and they don't have the evidence to say that he was a straight guy, and they don't have the evidence to say that he was a Christian. Because he was none of those things. He was a radicalized, demonic leftist who hated the idea of Charlie Kirk using his free speech to have open dialogue with other college students of opposing viewpoints. and killed Charlie Kirk because they couldn't get him to shut up. This guy took everything that the left advocates for, which is the violent murder of your political opponents, and used it, and followed through on it. As of right now, I believe that there's somewhere around 150,000 people who have lost their jobs for celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and I couldn't be happier. If you're going to celebrate the death of an innocent man and mourn the death of George Floyd, a fentanyl overdosing thug who was violent towards women and committed heinous criminal acts, you don't deserve to be considered part of civilized society. And you should have lost your job a long time ago. After all, you are a socialist, so why would you need a job? This is a turning point in the United States. I genuinely hope that it doesn't get more violent. I don't want there to be blood in the streets. I don't want there to be consistent, constant murders. But I also don't want people to be sheeps led to the slaughter. So if you see someone coming after you, you have two responsibilities. If you know you can't defend yourself, you get out of Dodge. And if you can defend yourself, if they come after you, you defend yourself. These people are evil. They hate you. They want you dead. And the murder of a moderate conservative like Charlie Kirk is the evidence of that. This man was nothing but an innocent man who wanted to have conversations with people. And they killed him for it. That's what a totalitarian, authoritarian regime does to silence its opponents. That's what a fascistic government does to silence its opponents. The only difference is that the fascists in this country, meaning that the left, the political left, are not in power right now. This is the death throes, the death rolls of the Democrat left. They hate you. They want you dead. They killed Charlie Kirk for it. And they do this because they hate God, first and foremost. They hate God. They hate what he stood for. Charlie Kirk, that is. They hate God. They hate the Christian faith. They hate Jesus Christ. They hate truth. They hate righteousness. And they want to suppress it, oppress it, and get rid of it entirely. Make no mistake. They hate you because they hate God. They killed Charlie Kirk because they hate God. And because they can't kill God.